Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge, and of course another edition of Damo's Team Talk, this time coming out of round 20. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We do appreciate all of your support. And with that, let's have a look at how we went this round. So I ended up scoring a 2,457, which was a better rank in terms of the weekly rank compared to last round. But my season rank ended up sliding similar to last week, which I think was a double-digit slide as well. It may have been around about between 50 and potentially 80 ranking positions that I slid, but this time I've slid 34 spots to now sit 3,081st overall. It was a very, very high-scoring round, as we all know. All you got to do is look really at your league matchups and everyone else in the league, and I saw some, even a 2,600 score, which was absolutely massive, but was happy enough with the score. A little bit disappointing that it is slightly below par in the probably 0.1%, but it is what it is. We want to see those green arrows to round out the season, but at least we relatively held our ranks, so it could be worse, of course. So let us go ahead and have a look at how we performed across the team itself, line by line. I ended up winning. I'll go through my my league head-to-head matchups as well in terms of those, which obviously the SuperCoach Edge cash leagues that we've got, the two of those, and one of which was a very, very nice win to secure a final spot. But I'll get into that a little bit later. But as you can see there, I ended up winning 8 out of my 12 league matchups. So not too bad considering. But let's start by looking at defense, of course. And we spoke about this bloke in the weekly episode, of course, the weekly podcast and vodcast. And of course, if you haven't tuned in, you want to do so because, of course, our I'm the Captain Now segment, we identified quite a few number of options, candidates for VC and C. And, of course, as I said, it was a good week to get on a vast majority of the popular options. But one of the, outsider options that I threw up was Harry Sheezel playing the second game of the round. And I just had an inkling. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go for the Bont. I'm not going to go for Butters, even Sarong, who I quite enjoyed and quite liked his matchup for round 20. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go left field. I'm going to put the VC on Sheezel. Scored well against Geelong last time. Geelong give up bulk points to opposition mids. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on Sheezel. So it worked out well. As you can see there, scored that 160 and was probably my biggest VC and C across the entirety of the year. I'm trying to think back as to... There may have been a Bont score, potentially around about 160, 170. Potentially I'll have to go back and have a look, but I do think it is at least in the top 3 highest VCNC scores for the season. So I was absolutely wrapped with that, especially to nab it early on in the round. It just takes the pressure off completely. So thank you, SheezNuts. He went absolutely nuts. Nicky Dacos was another option who has been out of form and great matchup against the Tigs. No Jack Graham for tagging or any of that sort of stuff. So he was obviously another one, but I just didn't trust his recent form. And I guess for those people that jumped on him, would have been very happy as well. 147 by little Wispy Dacos. Alongside him, Nick Martin scored a 95. Okay, I guess against St Kilda, I was expecting a bit of a better score, considering that they give up bulk points to opposition defenders, do the Saints. But we'll take a 95, and Nick Martin is relatively high owned, so it is what it is, really, whatever he scores. Luke Ryan continued his, savage end to the season. He is just on a downward trend. Who would have thought, 2 months ago when he was in that absolutely insane run of form, scoring 130 week after week just by going out and sneezing virtually and looking at the umpire. Now he scored a 75, which I think is probably one of his lowest scores for the season, if not the lowest. It is his lowest score for the season. There you go. So he has dropped down another 22.1k to now sit at a season low 524.7, which, mind you, at his highest, he was priced at 686.7k back in round 10. So that's a 162 drop, 62k drop. So yeah, he's only scored 1 ton over the past 7 games. So not good at all. Especially, a lot of those games that he's played over the past 7 have been on his home deck, Optus Stadium. So no excuses really, but it does really show that I guess that Freo aren't utilising him as that option out of defence. And yeah, they've changed their style. So to the detriment of all of us Luke Ryan owners, which there is 39.3%. Surprisingly, again, his ownership went up by 0.3% on the weekend. So it was interesting to see that. But I definitely wouldn't be touching him if you haven't got him. He is not the same Luke Ryan Seagull that we know and loved back in the early part of the season when he was scoring scores of 145, 130, 197. Just not it, unfortunately. But we have to stick with him because we don't have many trades left. In fact, we've got one still. So holding on to that for dear life. Alongside him, though, Nazai Wanganeen-Millera scored, I think, his probably highest score for the season, 134. Looked absolutely incredible, and it was his highest score for the season. So he was just racking them up, racking up the pill at will, virtually, as we say. So ended up having 31 possessions, 7 marks, and kicked a goal as well, which was quite good, and a free kick. So he was quite nice, and he's the sort of guy that has had really a high floor. His lowest score for the season has been 69, ding ding. But outside of that, he scored an 81 against West Coast. Is sort of his next worst, and every other score has kind of been in the hundreds or thereabouts. And I guess it's his ceiling scores he's kind of having trouble with. And, these 134 scores, few and far between. A lot of the scores in the 110s. But, if we could see some more scores like this on the weekend, it would hold us in good stead, especially going into SuperCoach finals, which obviously start next round 21. Dan Houston, 91. Again, not quite the same Houston that we were buying into when we got him into our team. So didn't help that Farrell was back in the team as well, mind you. Farrell was out of the team last week and he only scored a 96. So again, he has been an absolute fraud, but we have to stick with him, unfortunately. I think his ownership is high enough, 27%, where as at least a third of the competition own him, at the very least. So could be worse, but when we're going to SuperCoach finals, you kind of want those high performing pods more than anything, as opposed to those players like Houston, who can have a bit of a big standard deviation, big fluctuation in his scoring from week to week. But it's we have to just deal with it. Moving on to the midfield, and Lebont, he scored a 109. Butters 98, Zach Merritt scored the 106, and Sarong 111. So Sarong, initially I was actually going to go for Sarong as my VC and then Bont as my C, and luckily switched that up and got Sheezl as my VC and obviously locked that in, and ended up netting me an extra 49 points on Sarong and an extra 51 points on Bontempelli. So it worked out quite well. Connor Rosie, 73, struggled against my mob. But, outside of, this game, since we've got him, he's been one of the better performers. So you can probably excuse him. It's his first game in 7 weeks that he's scored below a ton. Every other score's been 111, 103, 168, 103, 113. So, that was the game. That was the week that we got him in. So we're being quite blessed to have him in our team, and he's in 24% of teams as well. So he's now priced at 550.1k. Actually went down 19.6k on the weekend. So close to his starting price, but I do quite like him. So if you're in the market for a midfielder around about that price point, there are, I think, better options, such as Sarong, who's averaging nearly 20 points more. But and I guess Merritt as well, who's averaging about 16 points more. So Rosie though, he's been treating me quite well. Tom Green 102, Sammy Walsh 102 as well, and just thankful that he's actually playing. I'm awfully worried that he's going to be managed in game or potentially even rested come towards the end of the season, but probably a thankful situation, not being a Carlton supporter of course, but now that Carlton are in jeopardy of losing a top 4 spot and obviously lost their top 2 spot off the back of the loss to Port Adelaide, that we need all the cut on the park. So Sammy Walsh is going to continue playing, thankfully, and hopefully can pull through and bust out some nice scores. Rawlinson, as you can see there, was my stand-in non-playing player captain, so I could loop on or at least lock in that VC score from Sheezl. Now, McKercher was unfortunately an out heading into this round. He was rested, and I guess that was always a possibility. He was very close to being rested the week prior against Carlton. Ended up taking his place in the side, and I think it was probably a foregone conclusion that he played almost max minutes, I think, from that game and has been feeling a little bit sore over the past couple of weeks. So as a youngster, you've got to expect this, and it happens. So we had to play Dowling. Just thankful that we do have cover, and half decent cover at that. And Dowling ended up scoring just a touch under his season average. Scored a ding ding again. There's a bit of a theme here going again. 69. And his average is 70.7, so could have been worse, so not too bad. Probably would have lost out around about if, McKercher scored close to, 100 like he has been in recent weeks. 31 points or thereabouts, and much for muchness. Revel obviously didn't play, was the omission for Brisbane. In the rucks, thank the Lord, Maxi Gawn is back. Only scored the 97. I thought he was going to be managed in game a bit more than what he was. Against Briggs as well, like big, bulking ruckman. He actually did quite well considering the D's. Another big loss to them, just in the scheme of their overall season. And he ended up playing 103 minutes. So I guess to me that says that they've got full confidence in his body, thankfully. So just great to have him back and not have to rely on the likes of a Freddie Kruger, who was perfect timing as well for Gawny to return, because was injured, of course, with concussion. And I would have gobbled a donut otherwise. Tim English, 83, just went back down to his usual shit scoring. His bad fluctuation in scores is really, really frustrating. Dating back to round 12, every second week he scored badly, which this round just gone fell in a second week. So I am expecting, given those trends, that English should score well, but he is facing up against Maxi Gawn, the big bearded one, who is averaged actually half decently against, I must admit, 119 back in round 1 this season. Prior to that, 134 and a 123. So maybe that trend does continue, and hopefully so heading into the first week of finals, of course. But I mean, a lot of people have him. He is in 30.5% of teams in the competition. As I said, Freddie Kruger was out, but at least has that handy DPP if I ever need to call upon it. Knock, knock, I don't. On wood, of course. Moving into the forward line, Sammy Flanders, again, just an absolute incredible performance by him across 2024. I can't believe that there were so many people that didn't start him in their teams. And he has been, I think, the most consistent. I think he's the only player that's gone a ton or better every single round. So ended up scoring 141. And it was a very nice captaincy option as well. We spoke of him in our weekly episode against Brisbane, and played an absolutely stellar game. He ended up finishing with 33 disposals, 4 marks, 3 tackles, and kicked a goal as well. Dane Zorko, likewise, scored a 138. Another guy that we spoke of as a bit of an outsider, just given his, I guess, actually, did we know? I don't know if we did, but we spoke of Dunkley and Neal as, Brisbane players that played well against the Suns, and likewise Zorko did as well in his previous game. I think we might have actually come to think of it, but scored the 138, and coming off a 160 that he scored last time. So for those people that jumped on, and I know that Liam did, he was a happy camper, and rightfully so. Jai Caldwell, 92. Just thankful that he's playing, really, because he could have been concussed the previous week against the Crows. Isaac Heaney, bit of a down game, 82 for him, which I think it's back-to-back down games for him now, isn't it? Yeah, off the back of a 72 the week prior. So bit of a, an outlier type game here, back-to-back, mind you. Luke Jackson, 73. Again, we all know that his ceiling is affected, and likewise his scoring floor when he's not the number one ruck. So, 73 is roundabout average for those sort of games outside of, when he does pinch hit in the ruck a bit more, as a bit of an average type score. Charlie Curnow, back to form, 119. You little ripper. I called it, and in our Discord as well, there were some people that were asking about, I think there was one that was asking whether they trade in Tracy from Freo, Curnow, or there was another player who was like a definite outsider. And I was like, back in Charles, he's back to full fitness, considering that last week against North, that they were throwing Curnow back for the first time in a long while, which is part of the reason why I brought him into my team, because he just goes back into defence for intercept marks and all that sort of stuff, and obviously elevates his ceiling. And they did that again, the coaching staff, on the weekend against Port. Probably should have done it a little bit more often, but yeah, it just shows to me that he has that capacity in his game aerobically. And obviously there was questions over his ankle that he rolled. I think it was in the warm-up prior to the clash with the Giants. Was lucky to play that game, lucky to play the game against the Dogs, and now he's back to full fitness, I think, and moving very, very freely as he was against North. So ended up scoring a 119, and off the back of the 106 that he scored against North. So he has turned his form around. I know it was a little bit of a form slump there across the round 16 and 17 games with a 54 and a 33, but he's passed 3, 89, 106 and 119, so I very much do like him, and has played well, considering the past 3 weeks have been at least 3 of those. Yeah, 3 of those weeks I haven't been able to use Rankine because he's been suspended. Of course, Rankine's suspended for yet another game. His last of the 4 that he was suspended for coming into this weekend, first week of finals. Not ideal, but yeah, I'm just thankful that Charles has helped me with regards to that, because that's part of the reason why I brought Rankine in, to try and loop at least with Curnow on the bench, and loop him with another player depending on the fixturing and order of games. So very happy with that. Rankine, obviously, as I said, he's on the bench, sitting pretty, hopefully, and I'm so looking forward to getting him back next week, round 22, of course, speaking of. And Joe Richards, which was an interesting one because he was a late in. Jordan De Goey was a late out, or at least, he was withdrawn from the team, wasn't past fit. Joe Richards came in off the emergency list, and then on game day, he was pulled out of the team again due to illness. And so, yeah, it's I think he was replaced by Sullivan, but yeah, there were some people on Twitter that were saying that one person was saying that they traded Richards to another player in order to avoid a 0, and they were cursing themselves. And as that turned out, lucky they did that, because as I said, Richards ended up being out of the team anyway. And then there were actually 2 or 3 people on Twitter that said, yes, we're thankful that Richards is back, because it means that we don't have to gobble a donut. Well, unfortunately, McRae was playing funny buggers with you, if he was, or otherwise, unfortunately, Richards was actually ill and couldn't take his spot in the team. So that is my team. That's how I fared across the round. As I said, still got the one trade up my sleeve with $10,200 in the bank. And now it turns to SuperCoach finals time. And yeah, I think my attention has pretty much been focused on this probably as of about 4 or 5 weeks ago, if not a little bit longer. Being out of contention for overall, it's one of those things where you've got to kind of manage from here on out, especially with the trades that you have up your sleeve. So let's have a quick look at our... Actually, before we do that, we might just quickly round out our captains and VCs heading into this round. Of course, I have not had a look at this at all. Of course, we will go into this into a greater detail with regards to the VC and the C options, the best ones of those, obviously, in our weekly vodcast and podcast, which will drop on around about Tuesday. So let's have a quick look at the fixture and just quickly go through who we think, with the help of SuperCoach Plus, of course, as to which players are viable candidates for the VC and or the C. So first up, we have the Dogs up against Melbourne, and you could probably look, as I said earlier, English wouldn't go for him, but he'd definitely be an outsider, bit of a pod VC if you wanted to do that. He's passed 3 against the Ds, 119, 134 and a 123. Max Gawn, you could obviously look at him as well. He scored massive against the Dogs back in round 1 to the tune of 162. Prior to that, 140 back in 2023 and a 92 back in 2022. So he's a definite option as well. Next game we have, outside of that, should mention, can't forget Levant. He's probably going to be the most popular VC option. Past 3 against the Ds, 126, 107 and a 105. They faced each other back in round 1, obviously, as I said, scored that 126. So yeah, he's definitely an option. Outside of that, there's no one else that really comes to mind. But West Coast up against the Gold Coast. Again, Flanders speaks for himself. I think they've played early in the season and he killed it. He ended up scoring a 105, actually, less than what I thought, back in round 7 this season against West Coast. That would have been around about the time that he was playing in the midfield, though. So he didn't have his half-back role that he does now, sort of pushing up into the midfield at times and pushing forward. So I would say it's not a true reflection upon how he could and probably should score against West Coast. At Optus Stadium, though, it is an away game. But still, he is someone to look at for sure. North Melbourne up against Richmond. This is a bit of a nothing game, obviously. But if you do own Sheezel, off the back of a big game as my VC, scoring the 160, faces the Tigs, and he scored 136 in his only previous encounter with the Tigs, which was back in round 23 last year. And he's in a scintillating run of form. Past 2, 138 and 160. And is someone that I would love to be on. Let's bring up DFS Australia and just quickly have a look at our defense v position to see if there's any matchup exploitations as well as we go. And I think the Tigs are probably one to target through the middle, I'd guess. Yes, they are. So they're actually the highest, the team that's giving away the highest number of points to opposition midfielders and inside midfielders. So yeah, he is a definite option, and I think someone that I'd look at again. Pleasure to watch, just an absolute freak of a footballer. Outside of that, you could go for Cherry, but keep in mind that Nank should return this week off the back of his concussion. So a bit of a tougher matchup there. Richmond are giving away, it says here they're giving away the second most points, but I reckon they would have given away quite a few points on the weekend to Darcy Cameron. Yeah, they did, because obviously Nank wasn't playing. So not a true reflection, but prior to that, the previous 3 weeks, 94 to Jordan Sweet, 122 to Kieran Briggs, and a 121 to Luke Jackson. So maybe there is something there potentially to exploit. But Nank traditionally is normally a restrictive ruckman, so I'm interested to see that being the case. But anyway, Cherry could be an option. Geelong up against Adelaide. Could you go for a Stewart? I probably wouldn't. Nope. Adelaide, don't think there's anyone really either. Collingwood up against Carlton, and fingers crossed that my mob can get the job done. Definitely need the win, and I'd take that over any SuperCoach performance at the moment. But I think you could probably go for Cripps. He normally does well against the Pies from memory. Sammy Walsh, if he's fully fit, could be a bit of an outsider. 91, 92, 123, but I think prior to that he's actually scored quite well. Let's have a quick squeeze. Extended form, 91, 92, 123, 105, and a 193 and a 113, and then a 70 in his first game against the Pies. So maybe, but I'd have question marks over his full fitness. Mind you, I think his minutes played, 98 minutes, which is kind of standard for him, I think, across the season. So yeah, he's an option if you want. For the Pies, Nicky Dacos. How did he go against my mob last time? I think, well, there you go. He scored 150 against my mob. I could have sworn that he was tagged by Chincotta. Maybe not. But I do expect Chincotta to go to him this time around, depending on team structure and matchups and stuff. But yeah, he's definitely an option if you want to go for him in Nicky Dacos. Next game, Port Adelaide against Sydney. There is, of course, Rosie and Butters. So Butters in his previous 3 against the Swans, 89, 68, and 88. So hasn't gone too well. I think he has actually been tagged by James Jordan. Meanwhile, Connor Rosie probably got off the chain, did he? No, 84, 103, and a 79. So maybe not. Swans they're in a rough patch, much like Carlton and a few other teams in the top 8 at the moment. So yeah, can we trust anyone from the Swans? You know, do we go for a Heaney? How's Heaney scored? 85, 124, and 57. Bit of a mixed bag. Yeah. Goulden, maybe if you got Goulden. But otherwise, Giants up against the Hawks. Who is there? Could you go for a Tom Green? He's past 3, 79, 73, 97. So probably not. Whitfield, maybe. How do the Hawks... Oh, they're pretty restrictive across the board, actually, to their credit. Yeah. Essendon up against Freo in the next game as well. There is Merritt, so how's he scored against Freo? 126, 64, and a 111. he actually averages 111.3 against them. So I wonder his extended form actually must be pretty good. Let's have a look. 126, 64, 111, 121, 104, 95, 123, 133, 135, 128, and an 84. Whew. So, yeah, maybe he's a bit of a left field option. That is at the MCG, that game as well, which does bode well for Zachariah Merritt. Put it in H, of course. And, yeah, if you're going to put it in H, could potentially do so, but he would have to be your C option. You could put the VC on him if you wanted to, if you were looking at putting the C on anyone in the last game, which is between the Saints and the Lions. But first off, before we go into that, so the Saints-Lions game starts an hour and 20 minutes after Essendon and Freo. So you're only really going to look at maybe 2 quarters worth to then assess whether or not it's worth to lock in Merritt's VC score. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to be sort of hard-pressed to find the time to turn it around and put the C on another player between Saints and the Lions. For Freo, you could go for Sarong. Nice game. Probably should have been a better game SuperCoach-wise on the weekend, considering he did win the medal and was best on ground against the Eagles, but only scored a 104, 77, and a 73 in his past 3 against the Dons. Brayshaw, if you've got him, I wouldn't trust Jackson, even though he scored 134 last time they played. But I'd say he probably would have been rucking. Luke Ryan, I just do not trust at all. He's, as I said, he's only scored 1 ton in the past 7 games or thereabouts. So, yeah, wouldn't be touching him at all. And St Kilda up against Brisbane. So, last game of the round. Before we get into that, Nick Martin, is he an option for the Dons? Scored a 124 in his previous game against Freo and a 76 prior to that back in 2022. So maybe not. Just having a quick look. Do Freo give away points? They actually give away the 3rd most points to designated kickers. Freo. So maybe he does put Martin in calculations, but it would definitely be a pot option if you're going to go for that. And I probably wouldn't have the balls to do it. The Saints up against Brisbane. So there is Nasai Wanganeen-Miller. Scored a 72 in his past game against them. Then prior to that, 116 and a 73. Who else is there? There's Jack Steele potentially. Brisbane, they give up. They're actually negative points conceded to opposition mids, so probably not. And then for Brisbane, you could definitely go for Zorko. I think last time he tore them up, didn't he? Yeah, 141 back in round 14 did Zorko. Then prior to that, 101 and a 53. But the 141 obviously coming off this the back of this defensive game and role that he's got this season. And as I said, the Saints, they do concede still. Do they give away for general defenders the 2nd most points now? I thought they were the most, but they've tightened up ever so slightly. So they concede the 2nd most points to opposition general defenders. So yeah, he's definitely an option. There is, of course, Lachie Neale. So the Saints give away slightly negative points to opposition inside mids. Dunkley could be heaped in with that in that discussion as well. That's about it, I think. How did Charlie Curnow go against Collingwood? So I just forgot about him. 59 back in round 8. Prior to that, 137 and a 109. Just looking at the extended form. Yeah, no, that's right. Didn't miss anything out there. That's it virtually, I think. Covers off most of the big names from what I can see. Have I missed anyone? Nope. Obviously, there are players that I haven't got in my team, but for all those players and more, of course, as I said, tune into our weekly vodcast and podcast, of course, our review of round 20 and the preview going into round 21. We discuss captaincies, trades, everything else as well. So make sure to check that out either here on YouTube or here as well if you're listening to us via the audio podcast. So with that, ladies and gents, let's have a quick look at our leagues and how we I guess, finished up for the last round of the home and away season before we sign off. And of course, for the SuperCoach Edge Cashy League number 1, I was actually toppled by I Can Hardly Read. And we were in the head-to-head matchups. And he actually jumped over me to now claim the Iron Throne. I'm in second spot. And still with that, I'm still happy that I've got the double chance in the top 4. All the best to those people who qualified for finals. That being, of course, I Can Hardly Read, Hot Pies, Slim's Garrison, of course, one of our regular supporters and contributors on our live streams and in the Discord, of course, as are all these people. Sloppy Joe, Layan Pipe, of course, is Jonas Goat, Export, Toddy FC, and Unique Individuals. And commiserations to those that missed out on finals. For SuperCoach Cash League number 2, I ended up finishing in 6th spot, went up 2 spots, courtesy of a win, which was good to see. I needed to win, and that was the game I was referencing at the start of this episode. Ended up beating the first place team, Evan, his team, Big Bad Brisbane Bear. He's out of trades, he said, so he might struggle across the final series, but as long as you got some depth, that's all that matters. So he gifted me a win. Was nice of him. No, I ended up beating him, which was good, and had to win it. Otherwise, I would have missed finals. So I went up from 8th spot to 6th, and I probably would have gone out on percentage maybe. I would have actually given up my spot to Tom Stewart Little, Sam A. So apologies, mate, that I didn't lose it for you. But again, good work to Big Bad Brisbane Bear qualifying in 1st spot. Actually a game clear as well on top. Zorro Killer, Tyrell's Hacks in 3rd spot. I am the captain now in 4th. Is Donny's Good in 5th. I'm in 6th. Small Victories in 7th. And Job's Giraffe in 8th. And outside of that, we do have, of course, the league in DR Content Legends. And I ended up beating Spills by 48 points. Spills, the absolute legend that he is, the other content creator. Go and check out his channel if you haven't. Absolute legend he is. I ended up winning, which was good. And it allowed me to keep my spot. There wasn't really much movement, I must admit. If you look here, if you're watching us on YouTube, all the way from 11th up to 3rd spot, there was no change in ranks, which was quite interesting. So everyone kept their spot, and yeah, it was set. So aside from that, I'm in 6th spot on percentage behind George's Terror Squad. Of course, that is George from FTTV, and he is ahead by 1%, exactly ahead of me in 3rd spot. So a little bit annoying that it's I missed out on the top 4 based on virtually point. Abs is actually in 4th spot, so he's in the 4th spot by 0.6%, would you believe? But yeah, very hotly contested league. As you can see there, league ranking 11th overall out of 14,086 leagues of this size, which of course is 20 spots. So yeah, that was interesting. Vern's Ballers, as you can see there, rounds us out. Holding the ladder, such as the humbleness, the nobleness of the man himself to do so. But yep, going to be an interesting matchup there this league. So I end up playing the final series. Just looking at this, did I just play JB in this league? No, Spill. Sorry, I played Spill. So I face off against JB from Dr. Supercoach, which will be a very, very nice matchup as well. In terms of the rest of the, so Sharp Dressed Men, Damo, of course, the big Freo man, formerly of Jock Reynolds, and of course now currently of the Footy Mailbag. Check out his work. He is in top spot, 1 game clear. DR is actually in 2nd spot. Good work, my man. And 13 wins. And then, as I said, from 3rd down to 6th, where I am, we are all equal on 12 wins and separated by a different percentage. JB from Dr. Supercoach in 7th, and then Janeth, the absolute legend, from the 3rd man up. And of course, one of my regular guests on my other YouTube channel, Bluebaggers Edge, so make sure to check that out as well. I will give it a little bit of a plug at the end for those people that aren't familiar with it, but it is my alternative Carlton channel that I have just created, offering reviews, previews, and everything else in between. Looking at the other groups and leagues, for the SuperCoach Edge overall league, I finished 126 out of 904 spots. Chev's Titans, who slid back in his overall rank, unfortunately, to 4th overall. But outside of that, we have Always Hungry in 2nd spot, Where Eagles Dare, Dow Never, Jimmy's Jacks, Mayo's Princess Chestnut, Fight for Life, Ozjan Oranges in 9th, and Tremaine's Waters in 10th. So, yeah, quite a few people moving around in the ranks, as you can see. Moving down the league list here. And AFL Podmasters, I qualified in 6th spot. And now face off against Podmasters team, Kane. So Kane, of course, who heads up the all the Podmasters side of things. He's facing off against me. So all the very best to you, kind sir. Moving down the list again, we have... in Spill's Supercoach League, I finished 2nd overall, behind centre bounce Big J. I was behind him on overall points by the tune of around about 270 odd points. And I face off against George's Terror Squad, who's in 3rd. So best of luck to you. Squadfather Legends is another one as well. And I ended up finishing in 4th spot, so I just snuck into the top 4, which is good to see. Went up 2 spots from 6, so that was very nice off the back of that nice win. Janeth, the legend, is leading the pack by far and away. He was actually 3 wins ahead of the next best in abs. Of course, the Squadfather in 2nd spot. DR, the other legend, he is in 3rd behind on percentage to abs. I'm in 4th spot. And then rounding out, Minimonk in 5th, Read Right Rules, which is JD from FTTV, in 6th spot. L. Payton, his team Don't Argue in 7th. Terrifying Glue from Dr. Supercoach Pete in 8th. And the former winner of Supercoach a couple of seasons ago, JP, he just misses out on finals on percentage in 9th place. Selby, as well as a few other people here. There's Dan Batten, Selby missed out, Centre Bounce Joe, Supercoach Insider, Ben, Swizz, Steve from SDS Supercoach, Horses for Courses, Supercoach Insiders, Bryce Mitchell, MJ as well. He does some fantastic work on his channel. And that's virtually it. I think that is all of the main leagues that I have here. Squadfather Cup 2, I finished 2nd in as well. So I'm facing off against the Wolves. So Abs finished top in that. I was 1 win behind him in 2nd spot. And that is it, ladies and gents. That is how everything is faring. So I qualified for finals in most of my leagues, which was good. Cashies likewise as well. So I'll see how we go and hopefully hold on to this one trade and it'll keep me in good stead. But all we can do is hope from here, fingers crossed, that we do have some nice pods up against our opponents that can score well, and likewise their pods actually don't go too well, or at least they're missing common players. Like there's actually one league as well that I didn't run through that I was the 3rd highest scorer overall, and started this. I went into this round in 10th spot and was face off against the team that was in 16th spot, and what happened? I ended up scoring the 3rd highest score for the round, and he ended up finishing with the 1st and best high scoring for the round and beat me. So there's just leagues there. I don't know what it is, but it's just one of those things where you get all the bad luck going against you, and every single opponent that I had every single week either missed common players that scored badly, or they had pods that scored well. Just terrible luck, and it's one of those things. It was just like, it was getting more and more like it was not just a coincidence. Like this league was out to get me, but it is what it is. Can't do too much about it. And at least I qualified for quite a few of the main leagues that I was hoping to, in cash leagues likewise as well. So I'll see how we go with that. And of course, before I go, as I mentioned earlier, don't forget to check out my alternative YouTube channel here, and it is called Bluebaggers Edge. And it's a one-stop shop for all Baggers fans, and likewise as well, opposition fans. You are quite welcome as well. Of course, I give a lot of the previews, reviews of all the games to come as well, and even bits up playfully a couple episodes ago, I ended up having my wife, who is a fellow Carlton tragic as well, on for a bit of a chat there, and it's quite funny because we ended up having a bit of a Collingwood troll jump into the live chat amongst all of us Carlton supporters that were having a bit of a yarn back and forth, reliving memories, everything else, and it was trying to get under our skin and just wasn't working. We've heard it all before, but always good fun. So as I said, Baggers, this is for you. Check it out. All you need to do is go to YouTube and type in Bluebaggers Edge, and you'll find the channel as well. So of course, a lot of analysis, reviews, highly statistical type analysis as well, of course, being a numbers man that I am. So I go through the ins and outs, tactics, structure, everything else. So go beyond just the looking at the surface level. We go a bit deeper in terms of the coaching, tactics, everything else. So make sure to go and check that out. And of course, any, support you can provide in the form of a sub, liking our videos, all that sort of stuff would be much appreciated. But ladies and gents, that is my team. Let us know in the comment section down below if you're watching us on YouTube, how you scored, how you fared in round 20, what moves you're looking to make in round 21, and of course, if you qualified for finals, whether it be in the top 4 or top 8 in your leagues, whether it be be cash leagues, bragging right leagues, or just for fun leagues. Always keen to hear how you went. Outside of that, ladies and gents, of course, if you have any comments and questions, feel free to hit us up either on Twitter, supercoach_edge, Facebook likewise as well. Any comments and questions, as I said, you can put them down below here on YouTube if you're watching us here as well. But outside of that, make sure to tune in to our weekly podcast and vodcast, either it be on YouTube or audio podcast, of course, however you prefer to our consumers. And we will go through, of course, as always, the best VCNC options, which at this time of year, during finals, could give you the edge, wink, wink, to get you the win. Of course, there are the trade segment as well, which at this time of year, we're all kind of clutching on to the last 1 or 2 trades, but we will try and table some players you could target, especially if you've got some spare trades up your sleeve that could give you, again, the edge, wink, wink, to gain your a bit of momentum and a bit of a win against your opponent, and so on and so forth. So make sure to tune into that, and until then, ladies and gents, we will catch you in the next one. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in.